Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, the health chief claims the country is now riding a second wave of COVID-19 infections, but some people insist we're not over the first phase just yet. And is the Philippines on its way to flattening the curve for COVID-19? Infectious diseases expert Dr. Benjamin Ko joins us live. And later, Belo Medical Group President and CEO Dr. Vicki Belo tells us the new normal in the beauty industry amid the coronavirus pandemic. The country enters another stage in the battle against the deadly coronavirus disease. Health Secretary Francisco Duque claimed during a Senate hearing on Wednesday that the country is experiencing the second wave of infections.
Actually, nasa second wave tayo. Yung first wave natin, nag-umpisa, batay po ito sa mga batikan epidemiologists, na ang first wave natin happened sometime in January, nung nagkaroon po tayong 3 kaso ng mga Chinese nationals from Wuhan. Naalala niyo po yun, ano? Nagkaroon po tayong 3 imported cases. Yun po ay kinikilalang first wave. Maliit lang na wave, kaga. Pero ngayon, as a second wave tayo at ginagawa po natin ng lahat para nga ma-flatten yung pandemic curve.
Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have infectious disease specialist, Dr. Benjamin Ko. Dr. Ko, welcome to the show, sir. Thank you for your time.
Hi, good morning. Yeah. Good morning, Pinky.
All right, doctor. Good morning to you. You know, Secretary Duque, as we reported, announced yesterday that we are on the second wave of COVID-19 infections. Do you agree?
I think he's basing this from the definition. But basically, I think he's basing this from the fact that there were 3 cases initially, and there was a lull in between. So he's counting those 3 cases and the lull in between as he said, it's a small case scenario wherein there were just there was sprinkling of cases, and that was the basis for his first quote-unquote wave.
But do you agree?
Whether I agree or I don't agree. So one recurring theme of the COVID problem is the fear of a second or a third wave of the disease. And these second or third waves are often portrayed as, they're actually modeling studies. The concept of the waves or the second wave theory actually emanates from the Spanish flu way back in 1918 to 1920, when we had there was a bad influenza epidemic, and then after easing down, the number of cases had gone down. There was a second spike in the cases among these patients. So that's what
so
a
let's
wave
go to that.
actually is. When I talk about a wave, there must be an increase in the number of cases, because for every outbreak, there's something that we need to remember. For every outbreak or any infectious disease, there will be a sprinkling of cases that will eventually go up. Sometimes you may not even be able to detect it in between. Mm-hmm. So this is one continuum. To me, I think that this is just one continuum.
Okay, because as you mentioned a while ago, and as mentioned by Secretary Duque yesterday, the first wave was the first 3 cases back in January. But Dr. Ko, what happened really, just to backtrack a bit, there were 3 cases in January, end of January. They were all imported cases, all from Wuhan. And then there was a lull, maybe after a month, there were no cases, month and a half. And then in March, the cases started to rise. And so I guess to a lot of people, yun po yung tinatawag na first wave. From that first 3 cases in January, lull, and then in March, tumaas po yung mga kaso.
Yeah, I think he was referring to that. But like I said, for every infectious disease, there will always be a couple of cases initially, and once you see those couple of cases, then you do contact tracing and you try to find out where these cases are coming from, and you start instituting measures. Like for example, when you have the polio virus or you have dengue epidemics or outbreaks among these cases, you see a rise in these cases, but you start seeing a sprinkling of cases initially because there are a few things that come into play later on. And these are, when I say they come into play, they become a concern, which means number one, if these cases were actually the first wave, what mitigation measures were put in between so that it could
Right.
have avoided where we are currently at today? That's one of the things that we need to consider. Second is that if we consider that definition of a few sprinkling of cases and a lull in between, then Wuhan would have been in the same place because they saw the first few cases. There was a lull in between until they had the spike of cases in the end of December. Am I right? So that means that all the 212 countries are now in their second phase, in their second wave as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, maybe to those, Dr. Ko, who are confused that we are now on the second wave, how are we supposed to, I guess, understand the situation? Because I say that it becomes confusing because even government officials, even members of the IATF, have always warned us, stay home because mag-ingat tayo dahil posibleng magkaroon ng second wave. Take care because there could be a second wave. And then all of a sudden, you're confused because you hear from the Secretary of the Health Department that no, we're already on the second wave.
I really don't have an answer to that. All I can say is that I guess we will just have to clarify with the Secretary of Health what he actually meant by the second wave. To me, this is just the first wave, and we are still in that continuum. We've never been able to downplay or flatten the curve in any way. We remain in a plateau. The good news is that we've had less deaths. In
Right.
fairness to the agency and to the government, we've had less deaths. If we were to believe that the reports are coming in at least on time, let's say for granted that the lag time, so these are assumptions made, that the lag time
Yeah.
is shortened and that these are more accurate results, and we probably are in a plateau phase.
That's what I wanted to discuss next, Dr. Ko, because according to the testing czar, Secretary Vince Dizon, there is a backlog of results of cases in the thousands. It's about 6,500. Please explain this to us. If we have positive cases that we have now, but we have a backlog of 6,500 pending results, does this actually give us an accurate number of the state of positive cases here in the country, sir?
Difficult question to answer, but if you look at the data from the Department of Health on their website, the total number of these are the total number of tests, the 600 plus backlog. Okay, let me try to make it simple. So let's say for granted there are 6,500 backlogs. If you take the total number of tests done in a day, the DOH has data that tells you that around 8% of them will turn out positive. So we can make an approximation of that. About 8 to 9% of them will be positive. So out of the 200,000 tests that are done, that have been done, the total number of positive were just 8 to 9%. And this does not mean that just because you turn out positive, this is a new confirmed case. I think this becomes confusing to the public because when we say that, all right, there is another positive case, it may mean also that these are repeat tests from patients who have previously been positive from the get-go. So what the OH reports are the new confirmed cases, which is difficult. It's a little difficult to go through all the data of saying, well, yes, you are new, you are a new confirmed case. Because you have one whole set of positive cases coming in. So in fairness to them, to the Department of Health, it really is a lot of work trying to separate the new confirmed cases from just the positives who have turned positive from the get-go. So on the assumption of the 6,500, let's pretend that's at 8%. So that's around 500 cases. That will
Maybe
probably turn
600,
out
sir.
positive.
And then that 600, do you mean that 600 will have to be added to the number of positive patients?
Yes, but like I
Or
said,
they will possibly have to go through another secondary test?
Yeah, because you like we presume 6,500, 8% of them will be positive. So if the 8%, if we extrapolate and say 8% of them will be positive, that means at least that's around 520 positives more. But the 520 positives do not necessarily mean they are new, because they may have been
That's right.
patients that may have undergone retesting because they were positive in the past, right?
Yeah,
So
and I
I
guess
think
to
it
put a
might be
little
much
background there,
lower.
Dr. Ko. Because pag positive patient ka, and then you take a test, you're positive again or negative, you have to take another test. I mean, one person just doesn't take one test. I get what you're saying about that. But I guess it's good to understand, Dr. Ko, when are we actually, what is the indication or what are the parameters that we're actually flattening the curve? We're going to talk about that after the break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our guest today is infectious disease specialist Dr. Benjamin Ko. Dr. Ko, help us understand, are we on our way to flattening the curve?
I'd like to believe that. I'd like to believe that. Hope springs eternal, and I've always said that as long as we have good data to support us, then that means that um, we can probably extrapolate from whatever data is being provided to us currently. As you can very well see, as the data that we currently have are publicly announced, which means that whatever numbers come out, they are the date of public announcements. So number of new cases, number of new recoveries, number of new deaths. I my hope is that I wish that we would we would have more we have less latency when it comes to reporting, which means that it at least a 72 hours turnaround time in the data,
Yeah.
because it will give us a
Yeah.
better picture of the current scenario if and when the data that is being reported is not too late. But I appreciate the fact
Yeah.
that we have
And
lesser deaths. It's just that we need to work also on the recoveries, because that is one of the data that I have difficulty in understanding. If you look at the number of cases that we've had, we have 13,000. And if you join the bulk of data that were reported in March, April, these are patients, and you know that the disease is 14 days in patients that are less ill and around 30 to 45 days in the more severely ill. The Department of
right.
Health has data now that shows you that our hospitalization rate is down, which is good. I mean, that means that we're doing a
Yeah.
good job. We have less patients that are being hospitalized. And that's excellent information, together with less death
Yeah.
rates. Again, that's another good information. But our recoveries, what happened to the patients in March and April? I said, if you look at it, nagpas na tayo ng 30 days. So all that thousands of data should have matched now the recoveries. but our recoveries are just 2,000.
Mm-mm. But what are the parameters you would say that would tell us that we're flattening the curve? Because Dr. Ko, in the past, there would be about possibly 450 patients, positive patients a day that would be added on to the number of COVID-19 positive patients. And then now, I believe we're down to, a little over 200. Would something like that give an indication that we are on our way to flattening the curve?
Flattening the curve, actually, flattening the curve is a concept wherein we don't overwhelm the health system. Yes, you are right. That means that the number of cases have significantly dropped. The number of deaths have also significantly dropped. And I think the interventions that have been instituted, including the ECQ, including the social distancing, including the isolation, the quarantine, and all of these have worked to some degree.
Mm. So it's not just really, we can't just look at just numbers. That's just one measurement that should be looked at when pag pinag-uusapan po natin yung flattening of the curve. So I guess we're going to try to get more information on this. Dr. Benjamin Ko, sir, I'd like to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Good morning.
And coming up, is it now safe for people to take their regular beauty treatment? Dr. Vicki Belo tells us more after the break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. 10 of the world's top beauty doctors have joined forces to create post-quarantine guidelines to reopen their clinics. Their consensus paper was published in the Journal of Dermatologic Therapy on Saturday, and one Filipino doctor is among the co-authors of the paper. So let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Belo Medical Group CEO and, of course, the doctor of the stars, Dr. Vicki Belo. Dr. Belo, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Pinky.
Well, hi, Doc Vicki. So there's 10 of you that came together to set up an international protocol for the reopening of aesthetic clinics. Can you tell us more about this? Was it hard, or was it such a challenge to come up with a position paper on this?
Well, we were 10 doctors. We met through Zoom and we decided, it's great because it's not just the Philippines or just the US, but the whole world. So we have people from the United Kingdom, USA, Australia, Sweden, Norway, which never closed down, then the Philippines, India, South Africa. So it was hard because we all had to do our research and we all had to agree together. So when 70% of us agreed on a certain protocol, then it would be implemented. But we really wanted to protect both the patients and the doctors and the staff from transmission of the coronavirus.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned a while ago, Doc Vicki, this was published in the Journal of Dermatologic Therapy. What were, would you say, the most important considerations that you guys had to prioritize? Definitely the safety of the patients and the doctors as well.
Well, we did several things. It starts at the consultation or the making of the appointment. So already we are trying to minimize the amount of time that the doctor interacts with the patient. So you don't want to ask all the questions that you usually do when they come into your clinic. You ask it before they can even be admitted. First of all, walk-ins won't happen anymore because, of course, you don't know. You have to pretend, Pinky, to be really safe that you have coronavirus and you are protecting your patient from yourself. And you also have to pretend in your mind that the patient has the coronavirus. Everyone, so that you're always alert and you're always doing your best. So on consultation alone, we already ask the history of travel, which if they've been anywhere, because that's the most common. Then occupation, not only their occupation, but their husband's occupation or wives. And then if they have grown children who work, you ask about that. Then you also ask if they've had any COVID exposure to any positive COVID person. And then, like in Singapore, what happened was their cases had almost gone to zero. Then suddenly there was a surge of like 100
Right.
patients positive COVID. And that is because of clusters. So the workers in from Sri Lanka are in a dormitory, and I guess some of them were positive, and they infected the rest. So clustering is also important, especially here where we don't have that good contact tracing. So that's the only time you admit you
So,
get them in, and then you send them an
yeah.
aesthetic inquiry questionnaire to ask them what they're interested in. It's all a lot of
Mhm.
actually now I guess digital and computer and everything is much more in place. Once they get to the clinic, of course, our staff is usually very well. You have to wear at least minimum an N95 mask, and then you have to have goggles
Mhm.
because the eyes can also get the infection, and then you have to have a face shield. The patients are asked to do a foot bath, and then of course social distancing is
Mhm.
very important. So everything, the chairs are permanently apart by 2 meters, the receptionist is far from you. It's yes, we've been doing dry runs on our clinic, and
Yeah.
it's sad that there's not much human contact, but I guess the times call for this.
Mm. And I guess, Dr. Vicky, the time of the patient that she, for example, has to come in the clinic has to be exacto lang. You can't wait around, 15 minutes. When you come in for your appointment, don't be late. And then the time, if you're given in an hour, you must be out of the clinic as well.
Yes, well, of course, we have to complete whatever service we have, but we're now allotting 30 minutes in between patients for disinfection of the room, even the toilet. Everything keeps
Right.
getting cleaned. We have this staff, that's all they do. We have a team of about 3 or 4 people per clinic that will just do nothing but
Mhm.
clean. And then, of course, we also have filtering. Air filtering is so important. As you know, the COVID is in the air droplets. So we have this IntelliPure system that can filter out viruses that are 7 times smaller than corona. And this air filtering system
Uh,
is really what's really great. Corona filters the virus or bacteria, whatever is in the air. It electrocutes it basically, so it's dead. Not like other filters where they just filter it and then
okay.
in time it dies. This one, they kill it on contact.
Uh-huh. What kind of training do your doctors and your
Use it, and when you're
employees
doing a
undergo? Have
facial, look
they
at that.
been?
There's a shield. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm losing Dr. Belo. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. There. Doc Vicky, so you were saying that, yeah, that facial, they put a screen also on the face of the patient. I wanted to find out the kind of training that your staff actually undergo, your doctors, estheticians, etc., Doc.
Well, that's what we're doing right now. We're doing dry runs in the clinic because it's all new. So you have to train your staff. We have lectures. We definitely, how to even remove your gloves, how to, especially
Mm-mm.
we're training them in the house. Like if you have a cough, don't even come to work. If anybody in your house is sick, you have to get a medical clearance. We're testing most of all our staff before they come in just to make sure they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing is ongoing. The doctors, we've divided the procedures into low risk, medium risk, high risk. So we know that, and
Mm-hmm.
especially procedures around the face, right? So if the patient is not having anything done in the face, then they're all also in a mask. But if they are having
Yeah.
things done in the face, then there's extra precautions for the esthetician or the doctor doing it.
And your PPEs are all ready.
Yes, they're all ready and they're very pretty. We've been collecting PPEs. As you know, we gave up all our PPEs in the beginning of the coronavirus. We just opened our warehouse and we gave away maybe 3 million pesos worth of all these PPEs, not realizing that it would be so hard to get new ones because there's a shortage in the world. But that's why if ever we're going to open our clinics, it will be a slow open, one at a, making sure everything
Right.
is okay per clinic. Right now, all our staff are going to what we call the Belo University, where they're getting trained not only in procedures, but also on how to deal with the new patients. Our housekeeping is also a very important part. It used to be not so important, but now it's a very important part of the clinic. Of course, everything. Did you know, Pinky? I got shocked. These papers, and all our references show that the coronavirus can actually live on metal for days. I had no idea. So when patients come to the clinic, they should be with no jewelry, no makeup. Men should be shaving. The doorknobs, everything will have a sign sanitized to show that we checked it every single time. So,
Right.
so good. Yes, just to make sure everything's okay.
It seems like you're all ready for the reopening of your clinics. So, Dr. Vicki Belo, we'd like to thank you so much for your time and good to see you.
Okay, thank you, Pinky. Thank you for having me. Thank you to my co-authors of the paper. Please download it. It's in the Journal of Dermatologic Therapy for all the aesthetic physicians. So you have really good guidance.
All right. Thank you to Dr. Vicki Belo. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.